Dragged hicking and screaming to his own ethics hearing, former Governor Hickenlooper is found to have violated state ethics law repeatedly. Denver is sued over police targeting peaceful protesters and journalists covering that action. An unprecedented look at sunup to sundown as our state sees a pandemic and protests simultaneously. And a valedictorian who lost the chance to speak at graduation gets it next. Former Governor John Hickenlooper broke the law while in office, violated the state constitution. Colorado's Independent Ethics Commission is still talking right now to decide what punishment, what sanction the Democratic Senate primary candidate might face. Yesterday, he told the Ethics Commission to ethics off by not showing up. Today, Hickenlooper showed, and it doesn't look like that helped. Our Marshall Zellinger shows you what Hickenlooper hoped you wouldn't see.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but?
I do.
One day after defying a subpoena to testify at the Colorado Ethics Commission hearing, Democratic U.S. Senate candidate John Hickenlooper testified almost 20 months after the initial ethics complaint was filed against him.
Did you prepare for today? I mean, there's like 100 exhibits. Did you go through them or?
No, I didn't. I'm giving you the best information I can remember.
The hearing is to determine if he violated Amendment 41 on a half-dozen trips he took while governor. At the time, the Amendment 41 gift limit was $59. One of those trips from 2018 was when he took a ride on a private jet owned by home builder Larry Mizell to the commissioning of the USS Colorado in Connecticut. In a 4-to-1 vote, the commission found he violated state law by not paying for a flight that did not appear to be offered to anyone other than Hickenlooper, and also 2 meals during the trip.
So is it your belief that anytime you can save time by getting on a private jet, that it's acceptable then for the state not to pay for state's business?
In answering that question, Hickenlooper explained his legal team and chief of staff discuss what's best given the time frame.
I believe they look at and try to balance those things in addressing the decisions we make on the schedule.
The commission found Hickenlooper innocent of the ethics violation for a trip he took to New York, where his wife was having surgery. He stayed a few hours late and took a private jet home to make it back for his State of the State address. The commission also found Hickenlooper did violate state law for a trip he took to Italy, in which he paid $1,500 that he thought covered the conference, accommodations, travel, everything.
And how did you get back to the airport?
The hotel had they scheduled us 2 at a time to go back in an automobile.
All right, and that was a Maserati limousine?
To be honest, I didn't notice.
Okay, you didn't notice you got into a Maserati limousine?
It certainly didn't feel like a limousine, and I didn't look at or notice what the brand was.
So now what? Hickenlooper can be fined twice the amount of the benefit for the 2 violations, so they have to add up what he didn't pay, and they can multiply it by 2. As for not appearing for his subpoena yesterday, they're going to discuss sanctions next Friday, Kyle.
Marshall, do you know if you have ever been in a Maserati?
I think I would maybe feel the difference, or at least see the logo. I don't think I have been, though.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain I have not been in a Maserati. Okay. All right. For whatever it's worth. Thank you, Marshall. So here's my view. Former governor, current Senate candidate John Hickenlooper has a contempt problem. One that might be a bigger issue than whatever slap on the wrist penalty he gets for his ethics violations. Hickenlooper goes into history as the first person ever held in contempt by Colorado's Independent Ethics Commission for refusing to show up at his own ethics hearing. Hickenlooper's own appointee to the Ethics Commission said that he showed a disrespect for the rule of law. And disrespect is really what we're talking about when we talk about Hickenlooper's contempt problem. He also showed it when he went off on a journalist asking questions about his ethics investigation, telling our Marshall Zellinger, "You guys should be protecting me on stuff like this." No, we shouldn't. And that was contempt for the free press. And refusing to show at his ethics hearing just as Democratic primary voters are about to decide whether he should be their candidate. I think that shows contempt for those voters who are trying to make an informed choice. Colorado's Supreme Court is calling dibs on a challenge to Democratic Governor Jared Polis's emergency powers during the pandemic. This rare move means that the justices will decide on a lawsuit against Polis's online petition signature gathering before the case even got up to them. Polis won the first round in Denver District Court, which ruled against the business leaders that are suing him. Some protesters are taking their fight to court with a class action lawsuit against the city of Denver. They allege that DPD officers misused less lethal weapons. They want a temporary ban on those weapons, saying that officers cannot be trusted to use them properly against protesters. Lawsuit gives examples of officers targeting journalists, peaceful protesters, and street medics.
While I was on the ground, my arm was wrapped up in my sweater, and I couldn't get my hands behind my back fast enough for this officer, who pushed my head into the ground, into the dirt, into the wood, and told me to stop being an idiot and stop being over dramatic, while I screamed at the top of my lungs that I could not breathe. He told me that if I wanted to breathe, I could have stayed home.
Denver's chief law enforcement officer says he does not have enough information to know whether police were deliberately targeting journalists covering the protests. Director Safety Murphy Robinson says the reason why reporting on those protests, being a journalist there, was dangerous. He says the reason why it was dangerous was because of criminals in the crowd. Media organizations have not reported being targeted by people in the crowd. They've reported being targeted by police violence. That is what the letter to the city of Denver asked to be stopped and investigated. Perhaps the single largest change, short of the police accountability bill that's currently before the state legislature, perhaps the single largest change that could come about due to the protests is taking Denver police out of Denver's school system. Board members are pushing it, and the superintendent today seemed open to it.
Nothing more important than the fact that all of our students should feel safe, should feel cared for, should feel protected in our schools. And education does not happen without that. They need to be able to trust the adults who are on their campuses with them. And this is especially true for our Black students.
Currently, there are 18 Denver police officers working as school resource officers in 16 different DPS middle and high schools. Several Colorado breweries are working off of the same recipe these days, the same one that's being used around the country to brew a stout for the Black is Beautiful initiative, started by a brewery in San Antonio. Gold Spot, Spang-Lang, New Image, Weldworks, they'll each make their own spin-off of the base recipe and then donate the proceeds to a social justice organization of their choice. And we all have the choice and the chance to support Black-owned businesses in our community. There are not many in the craft beer scene, sadly. Denver does have two exceptional ones, though, Novel Strand and Hogshead. I hit them both up on my day off yesterday and would also ask you to just think about where you can spend your money these days to send a message of inclusion and encouragement. It only seems like every day lately has lasted a week. They're still just 24 hours in length. We asked our team of photojournalists to give us a unique look at sunrise to sunset in a state seeing protests and pandemic. And a valedictorian gets her moment at the mic after her graduation was canceled. She'll speak directly to you next. Sometimes, in the midst of two massive events in society, the pandemic and the protests, it helps to look at the events of the day by just looking at the events of one day. That is what our team of nationally renowned photojournalists did yesterday, documented one day in Colorado, sun up to sundown. And our Chris Vanderveen supplied the words to go with their pictures.
KOA News Time, 5 o'clock. It's Colorado's morning news on a busy Thursday morning.
Days blend.
Right now, 59 in Denver.
In a wild mixture of chaos and boredom.
7, it's dark out there. How's it going on the roads this early morning, John?
Leaving little room.
Still pretty light traffic in the metro area.
To consider the day that was.
We're really doing good.
Life comes at you sideways and 100 miles an hour sometimes.
We've got a lot of unhealed things coming up to the surface.
And it just continues to feel like a reality that we can't escape.
You know, everyone's living
Love you. We'll see you later.
Week to week, seeing how things go.
Right on.
Okay. It all started March 9th when I got the call that we were supposed to leave March 10th for a show in Ohio. Sorry, we have to cancel.
What started with a call has yet to end.
The arts is huge. I mean, because we're barely employed when things are normal. So,
no
I mean,
bitterness there.
Luke and Stephanie lost gigs.
Oh, nothing's happening. Like, oh, your life is stopped.
This is my son, Jaden Tosin.
18-year-old Jaden. He lost the chance to walk on a stage and accept what was his.
But after COVID happened and we realized that certain senior opportunities were going to be taken away, I knew that I had to celebrate as much as I could to make up for what he was losing.
I love her fully, and like she would go to the end of the world to see me happy.
Okay, we're going to head over to get him to work.
His memory. We're celebrating his life today.
And at a service with no more than 50 allowed inside, Rosemary knows all too well the depths of her loss.
He'd been in and out of the hospital for the last 9 months.
Art, her high school sweetheart.
He was a great man. Always happy, always had a joke. Loved his kids and grandkids so deeply. So he'll be sorely missed.
And yet, on this one day, like any one day,
this is Nora Jo Goodwin.
Life continues.
Her birth has been just a moment of calm and peace, and I think, a good reminder for us as parents to continue to nurture her to be a good force for good in the world.
From the birth of Joe and Mary Beth's daughter, to the birth of an idea from a restless member of the Colorado Symphony.
The symphony is not performing, obviously, right now.
Many Coloradans spent the day considering choreographed improvisation.
This is Jorge.
From Kelsey at the zoo.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would actually be in the zoo by myself.
To Frank and Connie on their patio.
Well, we do miss the social interaction, the meeting with people one-on-one. And
life continues. Even in the middle of a disease that has festered in this country for far longer than COVID-19.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
I think the very real reality that this is not new. When I saw the video of what happened to George Floyd, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And then the way that it happened, I think, just woke the world up of saying, that's not right. Like, I can't just sit home. I understand that it's dangerous, but I can't just allow this to be the reality that we continue to live through.
On a Thursday in June, in a country in constant motion, Quincy asked a field of hundreds to consider 9 minutes of silence. A million things can happen in no more than 24 hours, some profound, and some that'll stick with us long after these days are over.
Come here. Come here. Can you see her? Come up on the window. Come here. Come here.
Sarah still can't get close to her parents in their assisted living facility.
They're well cared for. We really appreciate the people at the facility, but the isolation is really taking its toll.
But things are not bad?
No, things are fine.
Okay. How can I get a haircut?
Well, we have to wait. We have to wait for the governor to tell us it's okay for you to get a haircut.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, God,
Everything's good, Dad. Okay, love you.
love you.
Okay, bye-bye. Harder, for some reason, for me with Dad. That he gets so confused.
As days blend, mixing and churning emotions many never knew, sometimes it makes sense
One group suffering is everyone's responsibility.
to stop and reflect on one day that was.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to change it, but hopefully we can make some type of changes.
The highs, the lows, and everything that exists in between.
I feel like this is a huge opportunity. And I hope we take it.
Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
This valedictorian came a long way, clear around the world. There's no way that her graduation speech should go unheard.
Being a first-generation immigrant has made it tough to pinpoint who I am. Does the place of my birth define who I am?
So she'll give the speech here on Next. Fridays are for your good news. Tonight we meet an immigrant who came to Colorado, the Montbello neighborhood of Denver specifically. Came from Somalia 12 years ago. This year, she is a valedictorian who didn't get to give her speech at graduation. So she's delivering it here on Next.
My name is Yusara Ali. I graduated from Noel Community Art School in Montbello, and I was the valedictorian of my 2020 class. This will probably be the most people have ever heard me talking. I actually wasn't expecting to be valedictorian. I was born in Kenya in a refugee camp, and I came to America when I was 6 years old. I never thought I deserved to be valedictorian. I didn't fit what a valedictorian was supposed to look like or be. My family is originally from Somalia, but they escaped Somalia to go to Kenya because of war reasons. Being a first-generation immigrant has made it tough to pinpoint who I am. Definitely when I moved to America when I was 6 years old, everybody looked at me and they're like, oh, you're from Africa, you see lions. I have learned that these life experiences, along with the relationships we join and leave, and what we value, contribute to who we are as people. I definitely valued my little social circle I had in high school. Have strong quality relationships with teachers, friends, and family has helped me a lot, not only in high school, but during this pandemic. When I graduated, I had a 4.3 GPA. I have all A's on my transcript, except for freshman year. I got a B+ on my biology class second semester. We have so many talented individuals that are one day going to change the world. We hardly hear their name. That news was that we probably wouldn't have a normal graduation. Individuals like Lewis Gordon, Olivia Reynolds, Yamilet Martinez, and we were supposed to record the graduation and have our speeches be played, and that never happened also. Those individuals are just a small fraction of us. My speech can help others, incoming freshmen that are in the same boat as me, or graduating seniors who are also scared of what to do next. I'm glad that I get to push my family forward and push my siblings forward. I'm stepping into my power and encourage you all to do the same, especially in our current environment. It might be hard right now and things might seem like it's all falling down, but at the end of the day, everything I think will work out.
Your feedback and my word of thanks to you next. I want to personally thank you for kicking off our new weekly group project here on Next, our micro-giving campaign called Word of Thanks. You kicked it off with an astonishing $90,000 donated to clean up Civic Center Park. I hope the next time that you pass that park, you'll take some personal pride in what you helped to accomplish. A reminder, we're looking for the next smaller, mid-sized nonprofit that's making a big impact that we can feature next Wednesday on the second go-round of Word of Thanks, when I'll ask you to chip in $5 and I'll do the same. Really looking for a group that's doing timely work these days, so I welcome your suggestions. So much feedback tonight on that sunrise to sunset piece done by the fantastic photographers of 9 News. Paul saying such a beautiful and thoughtful tribute. Keith says that jacket should only be worn once a year. I write it on a little card when I wear them. Wore it last November. I'll put it away till 2021. See you next.